a kingdom plagued by a fearsome dragon. This dragon lives near a city or town and terrorizes the inhabitants by demanding regular sacrifices. To appease the dragon and avoid its wrath, the people offer it sheep, and eventually they must sacrifice their own children. The dragon's demands grow increasingly dire, and the king is forced to offer his own daughter, the princess, as the next sacrifice. She is chosen by lot and is about to be delivered to the dragon. St. George, a noble knight and a Christian, arrives in the kingdom while the princess is being prepared for the sacrifice. He learns about the dragon and the plight of the people and decides to take action. St. George sets out to confront the dragon. Armed with only his lance and shield, he faces the beast in a dramatic and fierce battle. The dragon, being a formidable and terrifying creature, initially seems unbeatable. However, St. George's bravery and skill eventually overpower the dragon. St. George slays the dragon, saving the princess and the kingdom. The people are overjoyed and grateful. In some versions of the story, the dragon's death leads to the conversion of the entire kingdom to Christianity, as the dragon is often associated with paganism or evil. The story of St. George and the dragon remains a powerful and enduring tale, illustrating the virtues of bravery, faith, and heroism in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. St. George is said to represent good. The dragon, of course, represents evil or chaos. Many of us are aware of the Russian flag depicting St. George and the dragon. This crest is said to have been adopted after the fall of the Soviet Union and is to reflect upon Russia's historical ties to Orthodox Christianity. The double-headed eagle is a symbol of the Byzantine Empire, which has ties to Russia dating back to 1453, when Constantinople fell and Moscow began seeing itself as the Third Rome. And of course, other theories exist. Welcome back to In Search of Tontonteac. Today, we're going to take a peek at St. George, Utah. St. George, Utah happens to be directly upstream from a site that we have tentatively claimed to be the historic Tontonteac. This wishboning of river systems, which is depicted on many of the Old World maps, as we can see from the Wyflicht map. It boasts a city near the start of that river named Chuchu or Chuchu. I have not read any information upon this city. It is the least discussed in all of the writings that I have read. What if the Virgin River is what is depicted on the Wyflicht map as the Tontonteac River? St. George was the home of many groups of Native Americans. Several sites have been uncovered relating to the Basketmakers, the Anasazi, and the Paiute Tribe. Red Cliffs archaeological site houses the remains of structures from when the ancestral Puebloans were residing there intermittently from about 500 AD to 1200 AD. The occupation spanned three distinct periods in ancestral Puebloan history: Basketmaker III, Pueblo I, and Pueblo II. Tempi-Poop, pronounced Tumpi-Pu, Oop, means rock riding in southern Paiute, is a trail which is the home of several ancient ruins and rock art. This rock art is believed to be dated as far back as 9.000 years ago. 15 new archaeological sites were discovered when the city began building the Southern Utah Parkway. After significant research, scientists have discovered that the area has had continuous human habitation for up to 10,000 years. St. George was founded in 1861 as part of the Cotton Mission. The settlement is supposedly named after George A. Smith, and Latter-day Saints Church apostle. In 1862, there was a total of 748 souls who lived within St. George. Because of the people who lived within this area, the great Brigham Young decided to construct an enormous temple beginning in 1871. Only 6 years later, the Latter-day Saints Church completed the St. George, Utah Temple. This marvel only took 6 years, with a small population and limited resources. It was the church's third temple and is the oldest still in active use. Why on earth would a population of under 1,000 people need a temple this large? It is said that St. George Temple was built to satisfy the church's immediate need for an appropriate place for temple ceremonies and ordinances, even though there were already two in existence. Maybe it was for the people who lived near St. George. Interestingly, the Mormons have a knack for settling amongst the ruins of ancient civilizations. As you may remember from the Northern Colorado River episode, the Mormons founded St. Thomas, Nevada in 1865. This is near the location of the lost city of Lake Mead, and along with the ruins that were flooded by the construction of the Hoover Dam. St. Thomas and the buildings that were supposedly constructed by the Mormons met the same fate. Most of the early Mormon settlers of St. Thomas forced to leave when the state lines were finished being drawn up. I guess they didn't want to pay taxes, but we should not fault them for that. What is with the Mormons and their connection to these ancient sites? I am fairly familiar with Mormonism and some of their beliefs. I know that they have a connection to the natives of America, but why do they find these locations as a place where they wish to settle on top of? Sure, we can accept the theory that people are people and that they will always locate the most suitable areas to settle within. Or we can perhaps suggest that Mormons located these sites utilizing the dwellings already there to start their settlements. Going back to the St. George Temple, I am dumbfounded as to how this temple was constructed with the limited amount of people and without the use of power tools and vehicles. The historical narrative reads like a comic strip, and yet there seems to be quite a bit of information on the subject. The builders choose to build the building in a swamp. They packed the site with lava rock and used a cannon as a pile driver. The first layer of foundation stones was laid using large blocks of locally quarried basalt. The temple's exterior walls were originally made from red sandstone that was stacked and grouted together by early saints. The walls and ceilings were also covered with plaster, which sometimes included hair as a binding agent to make it more stable. The hair could come from horses, livestock, or Latter-day Saints themselves. As I said, there is quite a bit of information of the construction of this site, but very few photos were able to show the construction process. Most photos depict the building in its final stages. And yes, this was in a time frame when photos were not nearly as common as they are today. Even more interesting, in 2000, a dinosaur, along with tracks, was discovered. Some of the features are remarkably well preserved and include exquisite examples of the footpads, claw marks, dew claws, and in one example, detailed skin impressions. These are said to be over 200 million years old. Not only do we have a St. George, but now we have a dragon. Was the St. George story passed down through the ages as Christian narrative, perhaps symbolizing much more than originally thought? What if St. George represented the church rather than Christianity, and the dragon symbolized paganism, or maybe even more thought-provoking, the church's enemies? The city of St. George could potentially be just that, the church making their way into the Americas and conquering the people who lived in this region. Or maybe it is just named St. George after an apostle.